I bought a house in secret, then caught my son giving a tour to his wife, her mom, and a friend. We already decided, he said. I smiled, waited for them to leave, then changed every lock. The grocery bag slipped from my hand before I even registered what I was seeing. A carton of eggs hit the tile with a sickening crack, followed by the thud of apples rolling toward the hallway. But all I could do was stand there, frozen, in the doorway of my own house. Jude looked up from the living room, casually holding a measuring tape. Kelsey stood beside him, gesturing toward the back wall as if discussing renovation plans. Her mother was perched on the arm of my reading chair, my chair sipping from a travel mug. A woman I didn't recognize held a clipboard and was pointing toward the ceiling. I knew the type. Real estate. Jude didn't even look surprised. "Mom," he said like I was interrupting something. "You weren't supposed to be here yet." I stared at him. "This is my house." "Exactly," Kelsey cut in with a smile too wide to be sincere. "And it's just perfect for what we've been thinking." My throat tightened. "What you've been thinking?" Jude shrugged like it was obvious. "The layout works great for the kids, and the office can be converted. We already decided this would be easier for everyone. No more rent, closer to daycare. And you're not using all the space." My key was still dangling from the lock behind me. I stepped inside, slowly past the broken eggs, past the realtor, past the woman I had never invited. No one moved to clean up the mess. No one offered to help. I smiled just enough to bare my teeth. "Well," I said softly, "since you've all had your look." I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. I simply walked over to the front door and held it open. One by one they filtered out. Kelsey's mom gave me a look of pity. The realtor muttered something about market potential. Jude kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. I shut the door behind them. Then I called the locksmith. 3 days earlier, Jude had shown up with 2 coffees and a smile that almost felt like the boy I used to know. "Thought I'd come see the new place," he'd said, handing me the paper cup, like it was a peace offering. We sat on the small porch, watching the tide slide in, under a sky that couldn't decide between rain and sun. He asked about the flooring, the paint colors, if I'd decided on furniture for the guest room. I remember feeling almost proud, not just of the cottage, but of how calm things felt. Familiar. Then the doorbell rang. Kelsey arriving just to say hi, she claimed, with her mom, in tow. I hadn't even realized her mother was in town. They stayed 15 minutes, maybe 20. Long enough for polite compliments and for Jude to help himself to the pantry, to find snacks. At one point, I excused myself to take a call in the back bedroom. I remember setting my purse down by the door zipped open. That detail comes back to me now, sharp as glass. Back in the present, I walk slowly through the living room, still tense from the earlier intrusion. The air smells faintly of someone else's perfume. There on the arm of the chair is a silk scarf. Floral print. Unfamiliar. I pick it up. A faint trace of lavender clings to it. Kelsey's mom. I hadn't even noticed she left it behind. Or maybe I wasn't meant to notice. Maybe it was a claim. Like a placeholder. Like the kind people leave at open houses when they want to pretend they already belong. I moved to the front door and opened the drawer, where I keep my spare key. It's still there, untouched. I checked the windows. All locked. Nothing broken. And yet they were inside. I grabbed my purse from the table and checked the zipper pocket. One of the 2 spare keys I made just in case I forgot mine is gone. Not misplaced. Taken. I pressed my fingers hard into the counter to keep them from shaking. In the hallway, I noticed faint lines on the hardwood tape residue stretched across the threshold of the office. Measurements. Planning. They weren't just visiting. They were mapping out my life. I used to tell myself it was love. That's what mothers do. We give. We fill in the cracks. We keep things from falling apart. When Jude was 12 and the cancer took John in less than 6 months, I swore I'd do it all. I picked up extra shifts at the bank. I sat at every soccer game, even when I hadn't slept. I packed every lunch, made every costume, paid every bill. There was never enough of me. But somehow, I stretched. He got into grad school and called me crying with joy. I co-signed the loans and paid the first year outright. When he and Kelsey married, I emptied half my savings to help with the down payment on their house. They called me generous. I called it normal. Then the twins came early, 6 weeks premature, and I moved into their guest room for 4 months, taking night feedings while working 10-hour days remotely. I'd sleep in snatches, eat when I remembered, fold laundry between Zoom calls. Jude would kiss my forehead and call me a saint. Kelsey said she didn't know what they'd do without me. When Kelsey lost her job last year, they were behind on everything. Mortgage, car payments, the daycare closed. Jude asked almost sheepishly if I could help just this once. I wired them $20,000 that same day. No contract, no conversation since. They never paid it back. But I never asked. Because that's what I do. I step in. I give. I stretch until I don't even feel it anymore. Still Standing in my own kitchen now staring at tape marks on the floor I didn't put there. Something shifts. Not a crack. More like a clean, quiet snap. Like a wire that finally reaches its limit. I think about all the times I was praised for being selfless, but what they really meant was willing. Willing to rearrange my life for theirs. Willing to go without. Willing to be small so they could expand. I wiped the counter slowly, deliberately, and tossed the scarf into the trash. Then I reached for my phone and opened the call log. It started as a casual conversation, just two neighbors chatting near the mailbox. "I'm so glad someone nice ended up in the cottage," Carla said, holding her dog's leash in one hand and a warm smile in the other. "Honestly, your son seems so sure it was already going to family." I paused, mid-reach, for my mail. "My son." "Oh, sorry, I assumed you knew," she said quickly. "Jude, right. He came by a couple weeks before closing. Asked if you'd consider selling it to family before anyone else bought it. Figured it was all arranged." She meant well. I could tell by her wince. I nodded, forced a laugh, and walked back toward the porch, with the envelope clutched tight in my hand. I didn't open it. I didn't even know what it was. I sat down, pulled out my phone and called Elise, my realtor. "Did Jude ever contact you?" I asked. "About the property." There was a pause. "Too long, Maurice," she said gently. "I thought you knew. He reached out about transfer options the week your offer was accepted. Said he was exploring ideas for multifamily use. He seemed involved." I thanked her, hung up, and stared out at the lawn. The hydrangeas needed pruning. There were weeds at the edge of the path. Small things I hadn't tended to yet. I'd only been here 9 days. 9 days. And they'd been circling for weeks. Not a fantasy. Not a harmless dream. This wasn't Jude and Kelsey looking at paint samples and talking possibilities. This was movement. Steps taken. Inquiries made. My name replaced with theirs in conversations I wasn't part of. They saw my purchase not as a milestone, but as a placeholder. My chest felt tight, but not in grief. Not this time. It was something sharper. Cleaner. Like clarity with teeth. I walked back inside, sat at the kitchen table and wrote one sentence in my notebook. "They don't think it's mine." And for the first time in a long while, I thought maybe that's something I should finally let them know. Jude opened the door like nothing had happened. Like I was just stopping by to drop off cookies or check on the twins. The casualness in his face didn't match the pounding in my chest. "Hey, Mom," he said, stepping aside. "Kelsey just ran out for groceries. Come in." I didn't move. "We need to talk." He gave a shrug, as if bracing. "Okay." We sat at the kitchen island, the same place I'd once folded baby clothes, spooned applesauce into tiny mouths, wiped away tears, and spilled milk, like it was all part of the job. The twins' drawing still covered the fridge, and for a moment, I stared at a crayon sun with a crooked smile. "You contacted Elise," I said. Before I even moved in, Jude leaned back. "I mean, yeah, I just asked questions." "You asked about title transfer. It was just a thought." "Come on, Mom." He smiled like this was nothing. "That house is too big for you. And you hate being alone. This would have solved everything." I laughed. Not loud. Not cruel. Just soft and hollow. "You think I bought that house to solve your life?" He straightened a little. "No, I didn't mean it like that. We thought maybe it could be shared. You didn't ask." His mouth opened and shut. He ran a hand through his hair. I swallowed hard. "I didn't buy that house to fill it with your decisions. I bought it to breathe." His face changed then, just slightly. Like I'd said something indecent. "I'm your son. I know who you are," I said. My hands trembled in my lap fists, clenching inside one another. "And I know what you've taken from me, time, money, space, without ever once asking what I needed." He stood up, suddenly pacing. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said. "I'm finally seeing it for what it is." My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't break. Not this time. He didn't follow me to the door, and when I closed it behind me, I already knew what I had to do next. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when the notification pinged. "Kelsey tagged you in a post." I tapped it without thinking, expecting another school photo of the twins or maybe a recipe she thought I'd like. Instead, I was staring at a caption that made the bottom of my cup feel suddenly too far away. "Kids finally getting a bigger place. So grateful to Mom." The photo showed her boys in their shared room boxes stacked in the corner, a toddler mattress leaning against the wall like a promise. The lighting was dim, but Kelsey had added a warm filter, making it all look hopeful. I blinked, reading the comments. "Which room is yours?" one friend asked. Kelsey replied, "The one with the big window. Perfect for my mom. The boys will share across the hall." I didn't remember taking a photo of that room, but then again, I hadn't. They had. I set the mug down carefully. The coffee had gone cold, So it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment idea, a hopeful suggestion, a miscommunication. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was planned. They had toured my home before it was legally mine. They had imagined their lives inside its walls, posted it, celebrated it. I scrolled back through Kelsey's timeline. More comments, more assumptions. Friends congratulating her on the move, asking when the family barbecue would be. A few mentioned the beach nearby, the cute garden, the sunroom she hadn't told me she'd seen. I felt it then, deep and sour in my stomach, the full weight of it. They had never intended to ask. They had only intended to settle. Not like guests, like heirs, like the space had always been waiting for them and I'd just been keeping it warm. I closed the app, wiped my hands on a dish towel, and walked to the window. Outside, the light hit the side of the house just right, casting shadows, where I imagined laughter might have lived. Instead, all I saw was assumption. Ownership, entitlement. I pulled out my phone again, not to scroll, but to document. I started with a folder, plain manila thick enough to expand. I labeled it by hand. House, evidence. Inside went the first few screenshots, Kelsey's post, the comments, the timestamp. Then the text Jude sent the week before I closed, excited for what's ahead. Let's talk about space soon. It hadn't meant anything at the time. Now, it sat at the top of the stack, like a warning I'd ignored. I pulled my laptop closer and opened my bank portal. There it was, a flagged login attempt from an unrecognized IP address. 2 days ago, the same day Jude asked if I needed help setting up bill pay, I took a screenshot, printed it, added it to the pile. Then I opened the app for the cameras I'd had installed yesterday. The technician hadn't asked questions when I requested coverage on every exterior point. I told him I had nosy family, and he just nodded like he'd heard worse. I hit play on the clip from noon. Kelsey's mother stood on my porch, glancing over her shoulder as she tried a silver key, then a brass one. Neither worked. Her jaw tightened. She pulled out her phone. 10 minutes later, a white van pulled up. The man wore a tool belt and looked puzzled as she pointed to my door. I couldn't hear the audio, but I watched him shake his head and step back. She followed him, halfway down the walkway, still talking. He left. She lingered, then left too. The next clip was from 2 hours later, Jude's car slowing as it passed the house, then speeding up again without stopping. No knock, no call, just silence. I saved every video file, printed the service request for the locksmith company from their website. It matched the window of time, and when I was done, I sat back in my chair and looked at the growing stack of paper on the table. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. It wasn't even about the house anymore. It was about the line I was finally drawing and how determined they were to cross it. I sealed the folder and reached for the envelope drawer. Jude texted me the night before. Can we have a calm conversation? Just dinner. No drama. I agreed against my better judgment. Not because I believed anything would change, but because I needed to see how far they were willing to go. When I arrived, Kelsey was already setting the table. Cloth napkins, wine glasses. The twins were with Kelsey's mom, conveniently out for the evening. The manila folder was waiting by my plate like a party favor. Before we eat, Jude said, sliding it toward me, we wanted to share some ideas. Inside were 5 listings. Homes circled in red ink, all within 15 minutes of their kids' school. All bigger. All more expensive. All marked with cheerful notes like great yard for grandkids and mother-in-law suite potential. These are beautiful, I said carefully. For who? Jude didn't hesitate. For us. All of us. It's a win-win, Mom. You sell the cottage, move into something that fits the family better, and we all contribute. I stared at him. You spoke to my bank? He smiled. Just to understand the process. We wanted to be prepared before bringing it to you. I stood up slowly. My chair didn't scrape. I made sure of that. You went behind my back, I said. Again, Kelsey jumped in. It's not like that. You've been so overwhelmed lately. We thought helping with logistics would take the stress off. I didn't ask you to take anything off me, I said. Not stress. Not space. Not the deed to my house. Jude's voice turned careful. You don't need to live alone. We're just trying to make things work for everyone. You mean for you? I replied. The folder was still open on the table. Mockery in print. I'm not transferring anything, I said. Not the title. Not the mortgage. And definitely not my piece. I picked up my coat and walked to the door. My heartbeat steady now, not shaking. Behind me, I heard Kelsey sigh and mutter something about ungratefulness. Jude didn't follow. In the car, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove home, turned on the porch light and placed the first document in a new envelope. I handed the envelope to Jude myself. He opened the door, confused to see me standing there without warning. I didn't ask to come in. I didn't smile. It's a cease and desist, I said, from my attorney. He looked at the envelope like it might burn him. What the hell is this, Mom? It's the last time I explained myself. I turned and walked back to my car. There was no dramatic outburst, no chase to the driveway, just stunned silence and the sound of the envelope hitting the floor behind a door I knew he would slam. At home, I removed the last spare key from the drawer and dropped it into the garbage. That night, I slept with my phone on, silent. In the morning, I got a call from Elise, my friend at the bank. "Maurice," she said gently, "your son tried to access your loan file again. He claimed you'd authorized him to help with refinancing." I closed my eyes and inhaled. "Please add fraud monitoring," I said, "and flag any future contact from him or anyone related to the Halberg household." "I already did," she said, "but I had to tell you." "I'm glad you did." Then I opened my laptop, clicked into the listing portal, and uploaded the photos I'd taken last week. Sunlight catching the front window, the porch clean, and inviting the view from the back deck that always made me feel like I could breathe. I hit publish. The cottage was officially for sale. Not because I was scared, not because they'd won, but because I finally understood that peace isn't a place, it's the right to choose who stands inside it. And this house, it had become a battlefield. I'd spent a year scraping for silence, installing locks, documenting trespasses, building walls against people who should have built with me. I wasn't running. I was redirecting. Colorado Springs was far enough to start fresh. And close enough that if anyone wanted to come see me, they'd have to knock like guests. I closed the listing tab, sat back, and picked up the envelope marked offer letter, accepted. The basil is thick this morning, pushing out of the raised bed with stubborn confidence. The thyme spills over the edges wild and fragrant. Mom once said herbs like that were too strong. I used to believe her. Now I plant them on purpose. The air in Colorado is different. Not cleaner, just quieter. Or maybe that's me. Inside the house smells like coffee and clean linen. No toys on the floor. No voices echoing down the hall. Just the hum of a life that fits. The wall near my kitchen holds a small gallery now. Hikes with coworkers. A blurry photo of me and Sophia from accounting, laughing with red cheeks and wind in our hair. A picture of my hand shaking the CEOs at the ribbon cutting of our new branch office. No Jude. No Kelsey. No kids in matching shirts. Just the moments I chose. My name is the only one on the mailbox. It makes the mail lighter somehow. Less expectations stuffed inside. The key hook by the door holds one key. Smooth worn at the edges, shaped only for this lock. There's no emergency spare. No backup hidden in a flower pot. No copy passed to anyone just in case. I know who comes in now. I know who doesn't. Some nights I wonder what they say about me back home. If I've become the villain in their version. The one who abandoned, the one who walked away from family. But then I pour a glass of wine. I stand by the back window. I listen to the quiet, not empty, but full in a different way. Last week, Thomas, a junior engineer at work, asked me for advice about a client. He said he admired the way I held boundaries without apology. I smiled at that. I didn't always know how, but I do now. Later that evening, I added a new photo to the gallery, me in front of this house holding a potted marigold. Alone, proud, free. Then I placed my key back on its hook and closed the door behind me.